They shouldn't have switched. No, for safety reasons.
Right, but they switched. Strong.
They did not.
Well, compared to last week's card, I'm just saying.
They did not.
Okay.
Yeah, the safeties are the same.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Good.
that's what it looked like in the notes.
Good.
huh?
Afternoon, everybody. Much more pleasant to come into a press conference after a victory and be able to talk about the great things our guys did to help us win a game. And I was proud of our team. It was a good effort on Saturday. Certainly things that we need to improve, get better at, but a lot of things we can build on too. And so that's positive. And just winning a game, winning at home. I think we've made such an effort to try to be a good football team at home and win at home. It's nice to be able to celebrate a victory and do that in Mikey Stadium. Certainly have a huge challenge on our hands this week. By far the best opponent that we faced all this season. I can't say enough for the job that Jeff Traylor has done with that program. Just outstanding. I mean, he's got that program to where they're a top 25 team consistently in the last few years, and winning the conference and being a bowl team and being in the conversation with the Power 5 teams that typically make up the top 25. They've consistently gotten votes and been in the top 25. So certainly an outstanding opponent, and we're going to have to play really well, much better than we have in the first 2 weeks to even give ourselves a chance to be in the football game. So with a short week, that's presented its challenges too. Coming out of the game on Saturday, we had the guys up here on Sunday. We chose not to practice and go through a typical Sunday practice workout, but we normally take Monday off, and instead we practiced yesterday, and we will again today to try to get ready for the Friday night game. So we're working our way through it and getting a game plan and getting the schemes set for our players and allowing them to practice those and try to become proficient so that when we get in there on Friday night, we give ourselves a chance in the football game. So we're looking forward to the opportunity.
Go ahead, Rich.
Hey, Jeff, Rich DeMarco, Army Radio. What kind of confidence is your team able to gain from the win on Saturday over Delaware State?
There's always confidence that comes from a victory. I think it allows us to be able to look at the things that we can do better without it feeling like it's pointing the finger or blaming. And I think lessons can be learned in a victory just as they can in a loss. And I'd much rather learn to play better fundamentally and correct assignments and get guys to understand the importance of playing the game really hard through a victory than I would have to try to teach them that after a loss. So I think our guys felt good about winning, but they certainly recognize our guys do a good job of self-evaluating, and they realize that there are things that we got to do better, and that individually guys recognizing things that they can do better. And so they get back to work right away and try to put the last one behind them. So that's, hopefully that's the case with this win. We gained some confidence, certainly excited about having a victory under our belt, but we realize the challenge we're facing this week.
And Jeff, the opponent UTSA, you mentioned how talented they are. Big opportunity. What kind of opportunity for your team Friday night?
Well, as I said, this is a team that has been consistently recognized in the top 25. It's a conference champion each of the last 2 years in their league. Tremendous success, very talented football team, and an extremely well-coached football team. So it's going to take a great effort on our part, our staff, to put together a plan for all the situations that come up in a game, and having a great plan to position our players for success and for our players to execute at a really high level. And without doing those things and everybody doing their job, it becomes more challenging and likely, we won't find our way to a victory if we don't do those things. And so our jobs as coaches is to position those guys so that they're able to be in the right spot to try to make a play. And they still got to block and tackle and throw and catch and kick and all the things that come along with their positions. But we got to get them in those spots so that they can try to play really hard and play with good fundamentals and try to win the one-on-one battles.
Go ahead, Ken.
Ken McMillan with the Time Trade Record. Jeff, how does last year's game play into this year's game? And do you feel as though your team is as prepared for last year, for this year as you were last year?
Well, certainly that was a great football game. Is obviously back and forth. We scored early in the second half and went up by 2 touchdowns, and they had 21 unanswered points. We were able to tie it up late in the game, and then certainly, as everybody knows, we lost in overtime. But I don't know that it affects this game at all, other than the realization that they are a very talented football team, capable of playing at a really high level, and that if we don't match their intensity, if we don't execute and control as much of the game as is controllable by us, that's assignments and fundamentals and effort, that we'll have a tough time beating them. We made some errors in that game that were very costly, but the bottom line is they won the game. They made the plays that they needed to make. They've got a very talented, experienced quarterback. He's got a great supporting cast. They're a very talented outfit on offense. Defensively, they've given up, I think, 17 and 14 points in the last 2 weeks. And Houston is, Houston's a team that is known for being a powerful team and can score a lot of points, and they have in the past, and I'm certain they will as they go through this season. And it's an outstanding defense that kept them to 17 points in the opener. And then last week, G.J. Kenny at Texas State has kind of got them rejuvenated, and he a year ago at Incarnate Word was a scoring machine. So they've got at Texas State a good number of transfers, and I think got a pretty good football team, and they held them to 14. So I've been really impressed with the job they've done on defense. And what's impressive is that they've got a plan. They got a system, and they believe in it, and they keep it. They keep their guys in position where their guys know this is my job, and they can turn it loose and play really fast, and it shows up on film. So we're going to have to do an outstanding job of blocking them and trying to sustain blocks. They're particularly good up front at doing that, and very athletic in the secondary.
Jeff, looking at the 2 deep this week, you've got a number of changes. David Hoyt going on number 1 left tackle. Connor Finucane is back. Right tackle, right guard Lucas Scott is up, and Noah Short is up. Anything significant to those moves? And given the fact that you guys rotate quite a bit, does it really make a big difference?
Maybe up front, we rotate the skill guys quite a bit, so I don't know that is as big a deal. If you look at the receivers and the running backs, we use quite a few guys at those positions, tight ends as well. Maybe up front. Booby started the opening game at left tackle. Didn't have a great game. Buckingham played this past week and was the starter, and I thought he played pretty well. It wasn't as though Shane is just so much better than Booby Law that he beat him out. Booby had a tough game. Shane had been practicing really well, and I think earned the opportunity to go play over there and be the starter, and move Lucas Scott to. It really was a combination. Move Lucas Scott to guard and Finucane out to tackle. And Buck had played on the right side, but he deserved to be a starter and remain a starter. This week with Buckingham injured, he got injured in the game, and we're a little uncertain as to what his status is going to be. And David Hoyt's a guy that has practiced with us all camp, all preseason. He was injured a year ago and has had a really good camp, and I think has earned the opportunity to be the starter over there this week. And that doesn't mean we won't see Booby and he won't play, but just the way they practiced and the way they performed. So my hope is that Booby will continue to battle, and that he'll play well enough and practice well enough that there's some competition there, not because one of the other guys doesn't play well and then by default Booby's back up to the top of the depth chart. I want all those guys to perform and practice well, and so we've got some competition. It'll force us to play all of them, and then that's kind of the story at the slot with Noah Short. I think Marshall's a good player, been a productive player, but the fumbles each of the last two games, certainly in the opening game, was very costly, and I think that you can't keep making the same mistakes and expect to be in the same spot. He knows that. He knows that more than anybody. Nobody's more disappointed about those fumbles than him. And he's a guy that you can see in practice is working really, really hard to make certain he's got the ball secured where it needs to be so that it doesn't happen again. I know he doesn't ever want to let it happen again, and I think he'll work his hardest to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. And hopefully the rest of them will follow suit.
How important is it to get Ajan back to where he was?
He's going to be involved in the game. It's not as though he's not going to play. When you have that happen, you can go one of two ways. Your confidence can be shot, and you can start to question your ability to be able to hang onto the ball. You question yourself as a player. I don't think that's the case. He's disappointed. He's mad at himself. They were both controllable, and just the ball security was not. He didn't position the ball against his body like it needed to be, and put the ball in a vulnerable position. And so you can either sulk and feel sorry for yourself or lose confidence, or you could try to get better and work. And he's a confident kid, and he'll work to get better.
Maybe it's a ridiculous question, but in both cases, it looked like he was really trying to make the second and third efforts, and that's where maybe he got sloppy. What's your feeling about taking the play versus really trying to make that extra effort, which has cost him?
Put a second hand on the ball and make sure we have possession of the ball when the play ends. I love the extra effort. You can give extra effort with two hands on the ball, and it at some point, what happens a lot of times is guys get tied up and they got six guys around them. They're trying to fight for the extra yard and fight for the extra yard, and you're not going to come out of that situation in those cases. So make sure you got possession of the ball, even if that means going to the ground. In the two cases where he fumbled the ball, it wasn't that situation. But they're both situations where ball security needs to be paramount and not trying to make another guy miss and score. On the first one, we're ahead. We essentially have a first down at that point at midfield. We get another first down or two, the game's going to be over. That's the opening game. You get two hands on the ball, go down to the ground. It's just maybe situational awareness. And in this one, he's trying to cut and he's trying to go score a touchdown, and he's got to realize that as he's weaving through these people that he's passing up, they're going to be pursuing him from behind. And so the ball needs to be secured against the side of his body and tucked away. And he's got another guy in front of him that he's trying to make miss. And so the ball gets in an insecure position, and a guy from behind knocks it out. And again, he's trying to make a play. It's not he's not just recklessly running with the ball, holding it in one hand, Walter Payton style. He's just trying to make a play, but he's got to realize that ball security is the most important thing there. And sometimes life's lessons are hard learned.
Last one. The quarterback situation, I imagine Bryson Daly is still your number one, and you probably go throughout the game, as you've said during preseason. But given what you saw from Larry Robinson and Champ Harris, and you'd like to get Dwayne Coleman in there, what's your thinking? Still on the one quarterback theme, or would you like to maybe see what they can do?
Well, it was good to get those guys in there and give the two young players a chance to get in the game. And we had all intentions to get Dwayne in there, as we talked about on Saturday after the game. But Bryson's our starting quarterback. The more opportunities we have to get other people into the game, that gets them valuable experience. What I always am concerned about is what happens when a player gets hurt and somebody has to go in the game. You don't choose to put them in at that situation. They have to go in at that situation. So having those guys prepared is important. And playing in practice is different than playing in a game. And so if we can get them game reps, then we want to try to do that. Now, I thought it was important for us to really get a look at those young guys. They're both very athletic, and I think have really good careers ahead of themselves. So to get them some reps on Saturday was extremely valuable. And had we gotten the score in the opening drive of the second half, we would have had another possession and maybe two to make sure we got Dwayne in the game. So right now our plan is to play Bryson, and if we have to play one of those other guys, we'll play them. But I don't think, and there's not a whole lot of teams going into the game saying, just in the middle of the game on the third series or whenever it is, we're going to put a different quarterback in. That's a luxury if you've got guys that you feel are that well matched.
Did Robinson's stock go up, though, with his performance?
Certainly. I thought he played really well, made some good runs, good decisions. The last play he was in where he pitched it out to Markel Johnson, he was hobbling a little bit with his ankle. So that was a poor decision, but he just had to get rid of the ball at that point. But the rest of the things he did, I thought he did a really good job scoring a touchdown and made a good run on that. That was positive.
Connor, let's do a couple on Zoom.
Hey, Charles, you can start.
Good afternoon, Coach. Charles Grievous with GoBlackKnights.com. Offensively, the Roadrunners have a very versatile offense and weapons, led by quarterback Frank Harris, and then offset that running back Kavorian Barnes, who had a breakout season last year. Is this a case where you have to defensively and strategically kind of pick your poison relative to matching up against their passing game versus their running game?
I kind of feel like we're in that situation every week, Charles. And it's balancing not getting beat over the top for a big play, and having enough guys in the run fit to stop the run. UTSA is really talented, and you and I go through the roster and talk about the guys that they've got at every position, every lineman, all their skill players, tight ends. That certainly Frank Harris. I mean, he's like a household name in college football. He's had a heck of a career there, and certainly had a great game against us a year ago. And he's, as I mentioned earlier in a press conference, a great supporting cast and well coached. So it's a challenge for us. It's a challenge against a team that is so physical and athletic. And we've got to position our guys and tweak our defense, our scheme to match their personnel and to match what they're doing to try to attack us. And they do a great job of personnel groups and multiple formations, and they're an impressive football team. So we got a lot of work on our hands.
And my final follow-up question, and you talked about this a little bit earlier, since taking over the program, the Roadrunners program in 2020, Coach Traylor, I think he's like 30-10, hence kind of solidified himself as probably the best coach in that program. And obviously the biggest news for them as well is the transfer portal, where they didn't lose too many players. Based on your knowledge of Coach Traylor, can you talk about his coaching style relative to what you might anticipate seeing on Friday?
he is beloved by his team and his coaching staff. That's a guy that was a tremendously successful high school coach in Texas and has come up through the ranks. If you ask the two most popular coaches in college football in Texas, it's going to be UTSA's coach and Texas Tech's coach. They're both former high school coaches in the state of Texas, and they relate with people well. They relate with their players really well, and he just does a great job teaching. That I think is something that when you've coached at levels where you've had to do more with less, or in a program where there's parity. In high school, you don't get to go recruit your players. The guys that show up are the guys you play with, and you've got to do a great job coaching them. So he's a teacher by trade, and he does a great job teaching his players, and they play very well fundamentally, and that comes out. And so I'm really impressed with Jeff. He's extremely professional, and obviously been very, very successful. They're one of the most successful college football teams in the country in the last, I think it's the last 3 years, in top 5. They're not recruiting the same guys Texas and Texas A&M and those folks are. I mean, it just is what it is. We've all got our recruiting pools. What he's done is maximize their talent, the guys that they have in their program, maximizing who they can be. And they've got some really talented players. They've got guys on their team now that Power 5 schools would love to have on their team. And to his credit, he's kept a lot of those guys there. And nobody's immune from the transfer portal. Everybody has lost guys to the transfer portal. He's just lost far fewer. But it's because of the culture that he's built there, the relationships that he has with the players, what he's built in that locker room. Those kids want to be a part of that program. He's recruited a lot of local kids, a lot of Texas kids that are playing at home, and I think they have a real sense of pride playing there. And the other night they had 49,000 people at the game. How many Power 5 schools are you going to go to on a Saturday and play in front of 49,000 people? There's not very many of them. So I mean, they've got a city that loves that program. They've got a fan base, and I just can't say enough for the job he's done. But obviously, the games are won by the players. The players make the plays, but he's built that program, and he's just a very successful and dynamic leader for their team.
Thanks.
Go to Sal.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
I'm good, Sal. Thanks.
Good question. Question on Lucas Scott. You mentioned him a little earlier. I think the coaching staff named him the Offensive Player of the Week for the Delaware State game. Can you talk about his first start and how far he's come? I think he was recruited as a fullback.
He and Isaiah Alston were the co-players of the game on offense. Both had really good games. That was his first start, and he played like a guy that had been playing a long time. You know, it's Mike Vitti said that. He said it didn't look like his first start. And I'm really proud of him. He's played multiple positions. We've tried him on defense. We tried him at tight end, and he's just grown into being a really big physical offensive lineman. So really happy for him. Happy that he got the opportunity. He earned the opportunity, and that he played so well. Hopefully that'll continue. We really need him and the rest of those guys up front to play really well. We don't have much of an offense without those guys, and I don't know that any team really does. So happy that we're able to recognize him as one of the players of the game.
Hey, Seth.